Making music. Music, song, and dance were popular with the Roman people. Music was played in the theater and at private parties. It also accompanied religious ceremonies and other public events like gladiatorial shows. Many Roman instruments were of Greek origin, like the lyre, far right. The most common instruments were wind instruments, such as reed pipes and bronze horns. These produced loud notes which could be heard easily at outside events. The most complicated Roman instrument was the water organ, invented by a Greek in the 3rd century BCE. It used a pump to force water into a closed chamber and produced notes or chords like a modern organ. Pan. The statuette above shows the god Pan, page 51, holding a set of panpipes. The instrument was made up of a row of cane whistles of different lengths. Music and dance. This mosaic shows a woman with castanets dancing to music played on the double pipes. Bands of performers like these played in the streets or were hired to appear at dinner parties. Frenzied dance. Music and dance were important parts of worship in some religions. The dancers seen on the stone relief above are probably followers of the goddess Isis, page 50. They are working themselves into a state of frenzied joy by the movements of the dance. Rodent rhythm. This comic figurine shows a musical rat or mouse playing a bronze horn. Double trouble. A bronze satyr, woodland god, plays the double pipes, a pair of simple flutes. There is no modern instrument like them. They must have been very difficult to learn to play. Both flutes had to be blown at the same time. Spiral horn. The cornu was a very long horn curved into a spiral. It was often used in the army for signaling and for music at ceremonies. Bronze figure decorates mouthpiece. Musical god. This fresco shows the sun god Apollo holding a lyre. He was also the patron of music and poetry. Flute. Like a modern flute, this Roman example was played by blowing across a hole. It has been restored from damaged fragments, probably incorrectly, and can no longer be played. Finger holes covered to achieve different notes. Hole for leather or cord straps. Bronze cymbals. These bronze cymbals were found at Praeneste in Italy. Other Roman percussion instruments included the sistrum, a metal rattle used for religious purposes, and simple tambourine-like drums. Healing the sick. The causes of disease were not well understood in Roman times. Many Romans believed that illness was caused by the gods, curses, or witchcraft. Some people wore magic charms to ward off disease. Others visited healing shrines to pray to the gods. The sick took herbal medicines or traveled to healing centers such as Bath in England, page 38. Roman doctors had some effective drugs, but with no real anesthetics, surgery was agonizing and dangerous. Signet rings. The rings above show Asclepius, the god of healing, and Hygeia, who symbolized death. The rings were probably worn to ward off illness. Clay ear. When asking a god for a cure, people often left a model of the injured part of the body at the temple. Bronze leg. This bronze leg was dedicated to a god by a man named Calidus, physician and child. This marble tombstone, left, shows a Greek doctor examining a child. On the ground lies an outsized cupping vessel used for extracting blood. Elecampane was used to help the digestion. Fennel was thought to have calming properties. Healing herbs. Many plant materials were known to have healing properties. Sage, a powerful healer, was sacred to the Romans. Rosemary was widely used in Roman medicine. Fenugreek was used for treating pneumonia. The Roman writer Pliny listed 40 remedies with mustard as the main ingredient. Soldiers were given a daily ration of garlic for health. Insula Tiberina. After a plague in the 3rd century BCE, the Romans built a temple to the god Asclepius on a small island in the Tiber River. It remained a center of healing right into medieval times. Decorative handle of probe. The saw has lost its handle. Medical instruments. On this page is a range of medical instruments used by Roman doctors. Most of the tools were made of bronze. A spoon for giving liquid medicines. Saw and forceps. The saw above was used for cutting bones. Tweezer-like forceps left were used to remove splinters or fragments of tissue. End of bronze catheter. Ouch! The wall painting below shows the legendary hero Aeneas having an arrowhead removed from his thigh with forceps. Speculum. This device was used for internal examinations. Handle of speculum. Central pivot. Folding knife. Probe. Before operations, probes like the one on the left were used to explore the wound. Hooks. These hooks were used for holding blood vessels and other body parts out of the way during operations. Spatula for mixing and applying ointments. Catheter. Fine bronze curved tubes like these were used for draining the bladder. Squeezing the handles together, right opened these prongs. Burial rites. Life expectancy for Romans was generally short. This was due to poor diet, a lack of medical care, and hard living conditions. Children were particularly at risk, with up to 1 in 3 dying young. It is likely that less than half of the population survived to the age of 50, although a few lived to their 80s and beyond. Over time, funeral customs changed. Instead of cremating or burning bodies, more people chose to bury their loved ones. In the catacombs. In Rome, Christians buried their dead in catacombs, a series of underground tunnels and chambers with gaps in the walls for coffins. Funeral services were held in the underground chapels. Marble urn. After a body was cremated, the ashes were put in containers called urns and placed in family tombs. The inscription on this carved marble urn tells us that it belongs to a woman called Bovia Procula, a most unfortunate mother. She may have died in childbirth. Remembering Evita. The tombstone above is that of a 10-year-old girl called Evita, shown as her parents wanted to remember her, with her books and her pet dog. Across the river Styx. This marble carving shows a child on her deathbed, surrounded by her grieving relatives. The Romans believed that the dead were ferried across the river Styx to Hades, or the underworld, and so they often put a coin in the mouth of the body to pay the ferryman. The funeral would involve a solemn procession to the cemetery for burial, or to the place of cremation. Street of Tombs. Roman cemeteries were built outside the town gates. The best burial spots were next to the road where passers-by could see the graves. Remembering the dead, especially the family ancestors, was very important to the Romans. Buried under ash. In 79 CE, Mount Vesuvius erupted without warning. Burning rocks and ash from the volcano rained over the surrounding areas, burying everything up to 4 meters or 13 feet deep. The nearby city of Pompeii was frozen in time by a deep blanket of ash and rock. Life ended so suddenly in Pompeii that we are able to learn a lot about the lives of the people there. Ash hardened around the victims' bodies so that although the flesh has long since gone, hollow molds of their original shapes can still be found. Glass urn. The ashes of the dead were often put into pots and glass vessels like this urn. Victim of Vesuvius. Above is the plaster cast of the mold of the body of a man found in Pompeii. The shape of his clothes and shoes are still visible. Many of the victims desperately tried to shield themselves from the ashes and fumes. Fragments of burnt bone from the urn. Country life. Most ordinary Romans lived in the countryside, working the land, rearing livestock, and growing crops. Farming was a back-breaking life of endless toil for men, women, and children, many of whom were slaves. Much of Italy was divided into huge farming estates owned by wealthy Romans. The rich liked to escape the heat of town in the summer and retreat to their country estates where they owned fine houses or villas with luxuries such as baths. Plowing the land. The bronze medal above shows a British plowman at work with his team of cattle. Reaping hook. Sickles like the one on the left were used for cutting grain. Emmer. Roman farmers grew a variety of cereals, including emmer, an ancient type of wheat. It is shown here, left, both as ripe ears and as grain, ready to make into bread and other foods. Boar hunt. This mosaic from Sicily illustrates the dangers of boar hunting. The hunters are armed with spears and dogs. The thrill of the chase. Roman huntsmen enjoyed the thrill of chasing the wild boar with its great speed and razor-sharp tusks. A Roman villa. This finely preserved wall painting is from the villa of the Empress Livia, page 9. Many wealthy Romans owned elegant country houses with shaded corridors, gardens, and pools. Bronze bull. Roman farmers kept livestock for eating, dairy, produce, and leather. Bulls, such as this splendid beast, were reared for breeding. Sheep shearers. Iron shears like these were used for shearing sheep. Winemaking. Grapes and olives were important crops in sunny Mediterranean lands like Italy. Olive oil was used in cooking and bathing, page 38, and was exported across the empire. Grapes were cultivated for winemaking, which was already an ancient art in Roman times. Wine mixed with water was the most popular drink in Roman times, page 46. The modern drawing above shows cupids, or gods of love, picking and shredding grapes. Shepherd boy. This lonely silver figurine of a shepherd boy portrays a very romantic view of country life. Glass grape flask. Lamb peeping out of shepherd's shoulder bag. Nile landscape. This mosaic from Pompeii shows the variety of wildlife that could be hunted along the River Nile in Egypt. Bronze goat. Goats provided milk, cheese, and meat. Trade and travel. In the 1st and 2nd centuries CE, there was a long period of peace known as the Pax Romana, Roman peace. During this time, the Roman Empire became rich and prosperous. The army built a vast network of roads that helped open up the empire. Merchant ships carried goods such as wine and olive oil to Britain and Gaul, while grain was brought across from North Africa. Soldiers, politicians, and even some tourists traveled across the empire and with them spread new fashions and ideas. During this time, Christianity spread from the east, along the roads and seaways to the cities of the west. Bronze donkey. Animals such as donkeys were used for transporting goods. They pulled carts and wagons or carried loads on their backs. Storage vessels. These pottery jars called amphorae held Italian wine, mostly for selling to other countries. Their shape allowed them to be tightly packed together in the holds of merchant ships. Dupondius, as, aureus, sestertius, denarius. Ready money. Coins were minted by the emperor mainly to pay the soldiers and to collect taxes. Almost everyone across the empire used these coins, which made trading simpler. Trade ship. A marble relief from Carthage shows a small trading boat and its helmsman. In the summer, ships laden with goods sailed as far as Britain and India. The seas were dangerous in winter, and many boats did not sail during the colder months. The butchers. A stone relief shows a butcher at work with a cleaver, while his customer sits and waits for her goods. Joints of meat can be seen hanging from the rail above. Bronze scales. Roman traders used two common types of scales for weighing goods. Simple bronze balances like this, and another type called a steelyard below. A steelyard for weighing the meat. This weight allowed the balance to work rather like a steelyard. The chains are modern replacements. The pans could be lifted off the hooks and bags used instead. Steelyard. The item to be weighed was attached to the lower hook on the left, and the weight on the right was moved along until the arm balanced horizontally. The item's weight could then be read from a scale written on the arm. Hook for weighing bags. The weight is shaped like an acorn. Official weight. This bronze weight from Turkey is decorated with a bust of Hercules. Weights were checked by officials to stop traders from cheating.